Welcome everybody, and this promising springtime. Um, let's begin with I was going to say clearing the air, um, clearing and attuning to our purpose and attuning to the space around us with a sound. I turn to the west. Hail to the spirits that ride the west wind, you who now are where the sun is setting. Come, join with us. Bring your vision and remind us of what we've learned in our journeys thus far. Come, join with us. Hail to the spirits that ride the north wind, you who come out of the dark. Bring us your courage and fill us with the openness of things. Come, join with us. And I turn to the east. Hail to the spirits that ride the east wind, you who come with the dawning of the day, revealing what has been hidden in the night. Come and help us open our eye to what we might learn. Come, join with us. Add your light to ours. And I turn to the south. Hail to the spirits that ride the south wind, you who come with the sustaining light of the daytime sun. Join with us, add your warmth and your light to ours, and give us the words to tell our stories and to sing our songs. Come. And to the spirits of this place and each of our places, thank you for your hospitality. For holding us up and for surrounding us in the vital air all the time, and for the waters that run through these spaces. Thank you for your presence and for allowing us to have ours. Add your power to ours. Father Sky, Mother Earth, ancestors, nature spirits, people of the Fae, all of us warmed by the great spirit fire. May you find this sweet. Hooray, hooray, hooray. We are here, in this place now. Clay and water from the earth, sun and wind from the heavens, a divine home for soul, abiding at the center of our being, in the center of the worlds, on the threshold, to the horizonless other world. We are here in this place now, and it is good. Right? I see more of us are here. Welcome again. I don't know if you read the text or not, but I've sort of taken off on some of it, and I don't know how faithful I am to the text with this, but we'll go with it. This thing of the head of wisdom. No doubt you saw the on the agenda. If you saw the agenda, I mean that's a different one. I'll say a little bit more about that toward the end. But what what I've crafted for tonight is something that I think was in the text, and that was that I'm calling the selves of the self, or what we would refer to as sub-selves. And I mean, these are, you could look at periods of time in our lives marked by changes. You know, a period of times like changes in our bodies. My body is not the same it was when I was 18. Changes in our relationships. And in our ideas and beliefs. I'm pretty sure most of us have changed in that area. Our social roles. At any one time, we have any number of those. At least most of us. Even our experiences of life. And experiences of the spiritual. You know, what I would have referred to as spiritual when I was a teenager is not what I would refer to it now as. So, I'm thinking that each of these roles and periods of experience, sets of ideas that we carried. Each one is a sort of a mini self or a sub-self, and that each in their time had in some way their value, even if we wouldn't go there again. Now this, but like I said, they had their value and they had something of value. There may be exceptions. I don't want to make too blanket a statement there. But this doesn't make them all wise, or maybe all wise, I should put it that way. But they know something. They know something about us at that time. They carry a piece of our experience. A self that may have a token of wisdom for us. And maybe it could be a self that needs to hear something from us. Or I don't know. In any case, these are sub-selves with which we have relationships. We may not be aware of them right now, but I'm in relationship with that 15-year-old Carl. Even though I'm not sure I can remember what he was like. I'd have to recreate that in memory. But we have these relationships with these sub-selves, and what we're doing tonight, I think, is one way to integrate, enhance, or heal that relationship. Okay. In a sense, this is our chance at diversity, equity, and inclusion. Even though that's fallen out of favor in certain circles, we want to do that for ourselves, at least. And then two, like these things about our sets of ideas that we carry. What about our thoughts about politics? Has that changed over the decades of your lives? Mine have. Or religion. Um, it would be an interesting sideline to sort of ask how many religions does this little group represent. Um, we're not going to do that. Or spirituality, or ideas about gender. Now as opposed to 20, 30 years ago, or the ideas we carried about even our families, or what we might think our purpose is in life. And there may be times of life when we had certain competencies that we don't have now. Or maybe we have certain competencies now that we didn't have then. So again, these are all selves that have attributes. So part of the question would be, who is the self that came alive in each of these significant relationships? It's like, who were you in those moments, in those times? A couple, if you'll forgive the personal examples, my life changed when I had a stroke. So that Schlotterbeck is different from this Schlotterbeck in some ways. There's a certain core that's stayed the same, but there's a difference. Many lives, though, changed about that same time, because it happened that during the COVID epidemic. So there were a lot of lives that changed then. When you were a child, did you see things that other people didn't see? Or did you notice things about your family that other people didn't notice? Who was I when I was married in the 1970s? I think it was a different person. So we could interrogate the self that was fully in the midst of those times, or at the time of transition, as things changed. That time when that self in you was discovering something about a relationship, or discovering something about spirituality. In that time of when things were unsettled, maybe, or exciting. Some pieces of the world were opening and others were closing. So after all that, any thoughts or I don't know, questions or?
I've got a question, Carl.
Yeah.
Are we looking for threads of ourself that we see continuous, or are we looking for kind of that spark of self that might have been unique to the 16-year-old compared to the 65-year-old?
Good question. My intention is that spark that was unique to that
Okay.
time. I think it's easier to see the thread, and we don't want that easy piece. It's like, you might be the thing of like, what was I thinking when I did whatever? Well, what were you thinking? Let's go consult with that self. Um, so what I'm sort of what I'm postulating here is that it is, in a sense, each of these selves has a face. The face that we had at that time, and that face is on a head, of course. It tends to come that way, and so what I'm suggesting is that we journey tonight to one or more of those heads so that we can have a conversation. Now, this consulting, yeah, no, let me come back to that later. So, is it, is it at all? Is there any clarity in what I'm suggesting?
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Is is the intention of the journey for healing of that particular time or place, or is it to gather information, or both, I suppose?
Um, it's yes and no. He It's to have a conversation with him, and we might assume it needs healing. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't think so. So it's like being reintroduced to someone you haven't seen in a long time, and sort of asking, when this was going on, what were you thinking? What was up then? What were you after? What did you really want? I mean, that would be one of the best questions. When this was going on, what did you really want? And what did you? This is like therapy. What did you think you had to do to get it? Something like that. Just a conversation to get reacquainted with that self, and see what it would like. See what it would like to tell you now. If I wanted my, let's go to the 15-year-old self. What would he like me to know? And what was going through his head then? And then I can decide: is there something I need to tell this young guy? So it's not. There's not a whole lot of purpose ahead here, a plan ahead, so to speak, to plan. It's just go have a conversation with that person that you were, and see what you can find out. See what they have to offer. See if they need something from you. Okay. Or just go play. It's like I'm sort of getting some memories of, oh, there were some fun times I could relive. Yeah, being at the beach or the woods. So yeah. So sorry, I'm sort of taking my own journey. So just take a moment. I mean, do you have an idea? We're going to do 2 journeys. So the second journey, you'll have a chance to either clarify the first one or, take another one. Go visit another self. Okay? No objections? Okay. All right, so how about like a 9-minute or 10-minute journey? And again, what we really hope is to have some, primarily to strengthen the relationship, but then also to receive any wisdom that self has for us, or to see if that self needs something from us. After all those words. Any, excuse me, anything, well, I guess I have a first question, I guess. Um, was this, I didn't give you any instruction or information about like how to make the contact. So I'm curious about how you did that. Um, did you like journey with your helpers? Did the head of that self just appear, come to you? How did it? How did you do it in your own way?
Well, I just kind of asked my helpers to take me, find my other parts, and
Hmm.
went that way.
Okay. Yeah. Good.
I went chronologically, looking at all of my selves,
Ah.
and there were just numerous ones, and until I kind of um, floated back down to one that I settled on. But
Uh-huh.
I spent a fair amount of time kind of wondering which one to settle on. But I literally went chronologically. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. That's a logical way to do it.
Well, I was asking my helpers to help me find um, one of myself, and I also went kind of chronologically through there and never really got to one I really interacted with, but kind of stopped at one who was really free at the time, probably 12, 13, out swimming. I mean, a time in the summer when time kind of stands still.
Uh,
There's no there's no last school year, no next school year. It's just it can be in the water.
uh-huh.
But we didn't get to much conversation.
Okay.
But that spark was very present.
So you basically sort of communed with the pleasure of it.
Yeah, and thought about what part I've always carried along with me, whether I've acted on it or not.
Hmm. Yeah, that's valid. We um, I say we like Western culture, we have this tendency to over intellectualize and make everything about learning and information. But why not just the experience of it, the joy or the pleasure of it? So nice. Yeah, I'll go with yours. Go with that summertime. Anybody else?
Sure, I'll talk about mine a little bit.
Yeah, Jill.
Um, while you were talking about the journey or what it might involve or what it might be like, a very specific time frame came to mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went to ask my animal helpers where we might go and how we might get there, two of them went with me, and we went to a place where I've been before. That it's not like a physical place, but on journeys I've been there.
Uh-huh.
And we came to this river, and when we arrived, a voice spoke to me and said, "Would you like to come into the river as this person and just feel all the things you felt then, and just kind of from an observation kind of point, but
Mm-hmm.
also feeling at the same time." And it just felt like sitting with all those many feelings and thoughts and just having it feel good and safe and comfortable. And if I wanted to let things go, I could, but I could also just be in this, I don't know, blissful spot.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very interesting.
Yeah.
Not what I expected.
Nice. Yeah, there's wisdom there. Anything else, or more about the self that was? I realized I started drumming, and I realized, I did all that talking and sort of like trying to get you guys prepared and everything, and I realized I had no clue what I was going to do, or where, or who I was going to talk to, or which method I was going to. I was just sort of like, all right, tell me, somebody come here and point me in a direction, and so I just like there were these kind of random uh, selves, some of which I kind of described when I was talking earlier, but then end up as the preschool child who saw spirits and was terrified because nobody talks about these things, you know. And so that's the one I talked to, and that's the one really had a like a formative, that period had a formative impact on a lot of my life. So it's like I talked to that guy, and I think we supported each other. Yeah, because part of my experience of that was, okay, I'm seeing these things and nobody's talking about them, and then I sort of became an observer of people, just sort of watching people and like, what are they doing and what are they not seeing or not responding to, and it's sort of a good position for a psychologist, just observing, watching, and wondering, what's going on here. So, but I began like pretty undirected. Anybody else?
I will say that I letting my helpers just take me wherever, thinking, well, they'll just. But I didn't have any idea of where I was going to end up, and to my surprise, I ended up like when I was like 16, my very first car, and I was so excited and so happy and so full of joy, and it's something I haven't thought about in 35, 40 years. It's like, oh yeah, that was a happy time in my life. First car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. See, you're reminding me of things like that. Our experiences. And so, we tend to think of wisdom as some highfalutin philosophical deal. But, I mean, there's wisdom there in those things, but just our real human experience, to really experience something that was pleasurable. The summer, the weather, or the river. That's there's wisdom in that. There's wisdom in that experience.
I'll talk about my journey. As soon as you started drumming, the scenario came to me. I didn't really have to go looking for it, but it was situation when I was 14, and we left our homeland, Africa at the time, forever, and I went back to that 14-year-old young girl who was very, very brave, but very sad at leaving, all the losses of every childhood friend, every piece of landscape, homes, everything I'll never see again. And but very excited to move to a new country. But this young girl, me, wasn't hurt. I didn't have anybody to bounce off my feelings. I was a middle child of 6 kids, and with all the hoopla of getting ready to leave, I could have used therapy at the time, but that was unheard of. I went back to her and we talked about what it's like to have losses in our lives, because we've all had losses in our lives, and I've had my own, and how do we deal with the losses? And it was just a nice conversation. And I realized that those losses at a younger age really affect me now, when I have minor losses, shall we say. And then so it was just an interesting experience.
Yeah, thanks, Brenda. Yeah, you can see the variety of things. I think that each of these conversations or experiences, yeah, and maybe conversation narrows it down. See, again, that's a bias. That's a Western cultural bias to make it a conversation, but it's kind of what we tend to think of. I forgot where I was going. Oh, yeah, that these is in a way it could be thought of as something of a soul retrieval. That is, we're this sort of forgotten piece of ourselves, kind of integrating it a little bit more than it was. It's not to say that it was lost, as we tend to think of it as a soul loss, but it's just like a reintegration, and it's the I of the DEI. It's more inclusive to that, and we would hope that it sort of gives us back some of that pleasure or enthusiasm or perceptive abilities, that we might have kind of lost along the way, or just set aside, or forgotten about, or got serious about life to be responsible, do what we're supposed to do. Okay, any other thoughts or? Okay. Well, let's see. We could. My child. I had a note here. I made a note that the little young girl said, these things aren't just ideas; they're experiences. They're real. Yeah. So. So why don't we? You want to take a break before we go dive in? See who else might be out there looking for us. So you want to come again? Well, the top of the hour. That's 11 minutes. Kind of a longer break, but does that sound okay? We'll see you then. Well, again, welcome back. I forgot to mention during that journey, the face of one of my best friends who passed away. I guess it was just about a year ago or so. Suddenly was there, and so I'll have to go back and talk to him at some point. I started to try to analyze, okay, now why is Jerry here? What connection? And I thought, no, don't do that. Think about it later. Continue on with what you're doing. So you can see some of the unpredictability of these things. So, we're going to do another journey. At least I'm going to drum for one and invite you to do a journey. And you have it again. You have a choice, like I mentioned. You can, if there's something unfinished, or you have a question about where you went the first time, you can go back and revisit that if you like. Or maybe there's another self, another head of wisdom in your life, that you may want to go visit again, or visit. And so maybe this time I'll try to focus myself in the beginning. But I don't know, the last one worked okay. Maybe I'll let them decide who it is I need to reconnect with. Any other thoughts before we take off here? Nope. Okay, let me. Okay. right. Anything worth sharing? You may or may not think it's worth sharing, but I'm sure it's worth hearing. Anybody?
I'll say that
Well,
I thought I'll go quick. That I thought I'd end up back where I went last time, and I did not. I ended up back like with 10-year-old Danya, who looked very crabby, and I have no idea why I was there, because there wasn't really communication. Just that there was this very, very crabby looking Danya.
Oh. Okay. There's a mystery, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Anybody else? Surprises?
Mine was kind of fun. I went back to my early 20s when I was doing some traveling and some risky behavior. I mean, backpacking through Europe and risky behavior and unharmed, protected, just sailed through the time with no injuries or harm. And I went back to that to me and I reminded her that, do you know that at that time you had a guardian angel? Do you know that you had spirit animals? Did you have guides? Because I didn't know at that time.
Mm.
You know, I grew up in a conservative Lutheran church, and we didn't have the fun things like angels and guides and stuff like all the Catholics do. You know, so it came to me a surprise as an older adult that I had all these helpers. So I reminded her that you were protected and you had a guardian angel, and that's why it all worked out well for you when you were unharmed. And some of those, and I also reminded her that some of those guides, angels, are the ones that are in my life now as a 70-year-old woman. So anyway, it was just kind of a fun
Sweet.
experience.
Yeah, thanks, Brenda. Well, I had trouble settling in. And I was like all over the place. Then I started like, oh yeah, I'll try that chronological thing that some of you guys suggested, and just started doing that, and then but then it's like it went. Then it started to solidify, and I went, and it was the theme was transitions, as it were. So there was one that I had this really close friend when I was a kid. We lived in houses that were identical, just 2 doors away, and we looked like each other. People thought we were brothers, and then he went away to school, to like a military school, but we drove to Memphis at some point, and so I think, I can't believe I did that. That at that age, but we did, and then he died suddenly in his 20s, and so there was that sort of loss there, and then it went to like the becoming a father, and how that just changed my orientation to life. So I talked to me a little bit about that, rather than just sort of like, okay, this is the world, and we're going to do these things, and suddenly there was this sort of responsibility to care for this soul that came into the world, and then it was not so much, it wasn't up to me to hammer her into shape, but to discover who is it that has arrived? That was sort of was my theme. And see, Aaron's left, so I can say whatever I want now. But it was Aaron that was the arrival there, and then like I guess it was before that. Then in college, when I started, I was also raised in a Lutheran church, and took it seriously. But then when I got into sort of college, I started exploring these other things, and was discovering other ways of other expressions of spirituality. It was fun. It was a pleasure there. And that guy, this was in Baltimore. So we had lots of resources. We had the Quakers. We had a Quaker meeting right there in Baltimore. We had a couple of them in Baltimore. So I had that, and then there was a liberal Catholic church that was all about sort of psychic things and the Eucharist, the old-time Eucharist, because of the energetics. I think I mentioned this before. Dania remembered about the Found in Leadbeater book about that, and then there was a Divine Life, what was it? Self-Revelation Church of Absolute Monism. That was just outside of Washington, D.C. And so in a month, I'd make a circuit of each one of these, because one had a beautiful, just mostly ritual. They didn't much care what you believed. And that was the liberal Catholic. And then there was this Self-Revelation Church of Absolute Monism that had one of their ministers. It was founded by a Swami. One of their ministers was this guy that we just clicked, and I figured out his schedule, so I'd go to DC then on the Sundays that he was talking, and that had really intelligent stuff taken from various scriptures and meditation, and it was sort of like Sanskrit type. And then I'd go to the Quaker meeting because it was quiet. You just sit in silence for most of the time. So it was like each one fed a piece of that person. Then and it was I thought it was a great time. So yeah. Anyway. That's my story. But it was about the transitions, those moments, and how, like, there was some were painful losses and some were just delightful discoveries. More than anybody needs to know, but anybody else? Well, all right. So, okay, after all this, so what? Well, I think one thing, of this question, what does this mean for your life? You can use this technique for any piece of your life that has unanswered questions in it. As I said, like a soul retrieval, or to reintegrate aspects of yourself lost to experience, or you just forgot, or where you forget about those pleasures, or attachments that we had, or just other phases of life. And my hypnosis instructor was fond of saying, everything necessary for the preservation of life, the Creator made pleasurable. And we kind of forget about that in our Protestant-oriented, obsessive-compulsive, produce culture. That the things that create life are pleasurable. it's hard to sell that. Um, so you can see I've sort of taken that more psychological, I guess you could call it psychological, that bent of these aspects of the selves. But you probably noticed, well, you would have, the picture of the rock that was on the agenda, and some of you have seen that before. That's in upstate New York in the Hudson River Valley. You could visit something like that in nature, especially if it has a face. There's a psychological term for seeing faces and things that I can never remember. But I just consider if I can see a face there, it's an invitation for a conversation and relationship. Doesn't mean I always talk to it, but they're there. It's a reminder of spirit to me. And so there are many, many sources of wisdom in nature, as we've seen, but some are especially inviting. And there are a lot of legends, Celtic legends particularly, about the head, the talking head. And even back to Rome, there's the October horse that I've talked about in some seminars. October 15th, where a horse's head would be cut off and then taken to a temple and then consulted as an oracle. So you'd get information straight from the horse's mouth there. Or in Celtic legend, there's this Welsh story about Bran the Blessed, who was a giant, and the story has all these battles, kind of the typical tribal conflicts, and Bran means like blessed crow or raven. And so in one of the battles, Bran, most everybody's killed except 7. There's 7 left of this group, and Bran is one of them, but he's been mortally wounded. I think it's a poison arrow or poison something. And so before the poison takes over, he has his compatriots cut off his head. So he said, cut off my head and take it with you. Well, they cut off his head, because it's one of those stories. But the head lives on and continues for years and years to regale them with stories and songs and these conversations. And eventually there's something that happens. They don't realize the time that's going by, and then somebody opens a door somewhere and they suddenly realize, all these years have gone by. But what they do, and what he tells them to do, is to bury his head at the White Hill or something. It's where the Tower of London is now. To bury the head facing France, to guard against invasion. And that legend is the reason that in England, now in London, at the Tower of London, they keep ravens or crows there, with the idea that as long as they're there, England will be protected. And so there are these rather large birds there, and they clip their wings, so they can't fly away. So they won't. So they're kept. But it's with this whole idea that crow means Bran, and Bran's still there, protecting England. So anyway, there's another head story, and we're all trying to get ahead in life anyway, so sorry about that. Okay, so anyway, yeah. So you can use this technique to connect with pieces of yourself, or to things that you see in nature. That nature is just full, I think, full of wisdom. or the head of an ancestor. You could take a photograph of your, not take one, but you could use a photograph of you as a child, if you wanted, and look into that child's eyes and ask, what were you seeing? What did you really want? What did you really need then? So you could visit that child to see what he or she was up to, was thinking. Could be an interesting thing. So, any last thoughts or ideas or suggestions? Yeah, Ian.
Well, I didn't follow the rules again. I went. I went to a past life me and asked for some reminders about what kind of healing came through my line and how they did healing. Because I feel like I need a refresher or a change. So I did that, and that was really very helpful. Tried to do that for the second one, but I was done. It was like the first journey was enough. So you can also do that.
Yeah, I like that idea. You could do that with your ancestors too, like just exactly what Anne said in a way about the healing or about survival. Or faces are, there's a world in there. If I'd have thought of it, there's a passage out of John O'Donoghue's book Anam Cara. That's this beautiful thing about the world that's in there in the face. I didn't think of it. So anyway, all right. Well, let's do the formalities of closing, and then if people want to stay, they can, or go if you wish. So, to the spirits of the West, thank you for being here and helping us to learn and giving us new visions of who we've been, which also tells us who we might be. Time of parting has come, though. Go if you must, or stay if that be your will. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And the spirits of the North, thanks for coming out of the dark to join with us and supporting us with courage to rest where it's dark in the unknown. And the time of parting has come. Go if you must, or stay if that be your will. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I turn to the east. And thanks to the spirits that ride the east wind, thank you for joining with us and bringing your discoveries and openings to us. The time of parting has come. Go if you must. Stay if that be your will. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And to the spirits of the South, thank you for being here and joining with us and giving us the words to tell our stories. The time of parting has come. Go if you must. Stay if that be your will. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And to the spirits of this place and each of our places, thank you for your hospitality and thank you for your attunement to our efforts this evening. And the time of our parting and closing has come, and we give you our thanks. Thank you. Thank you. It is finished.
Before I stop the recording, are you going to say something that I'm going to wish I hadn't stopped the recording?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I have nothing in mind.